You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
Hello and welcome to Orange County's longest running business talk show. And yes, I am your host, Rick Franzi. And boy, do we have a good show planned for you today. Why do you ask? Because Paul Brinkman is our guest. He is the president of Trans Solutions Consulting. Paul, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate you extending the invitation to me, and happy to be here.
Yeah, you're here by virtue of a previous guest that's been on the show. We get a lot of guests on the show over the years, from guests referring me to their peer business entrepreneurs, and I'm excited to have you share your story with our audience. So let's get right into it. And tell us the original inspiration for you to purchase and take over Trans Solution Consulting.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, so I've been in the consulting space for a little over 15 years now. I actually started with a management consulting firm here in Orange County, where I'm based. I was there for about 10 or 11 years. And I met my mentor, Giles Taylor, who was the founder of Trans Solutions there, as we expanded our transportation practice group, our global logistics practice group there. And it just so happened that there was an opportunity in 2022 to join Giles and to bring a fresh perspective to Trans Solutions Consulting as the vice president, and identify different areas of opportunity where I could take his business to the next level in partnership with him. And over the 2 years or so, we had kind of been working together and finding those opportunities. And he said, "Hey, we've been working together now for about 2 years, and things are looking good. And I'm looking to wind down a bit. So, would you be interested in purchasing the business and taking control and being in the lead seat?" And I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I've always wanted to kind of run my own company. So it was a good opportunity for me and my family. And so this is the first year of being the president of Trans Solutions, but I've been in the industry for about 15 years and feeling very comfortable with kind of where we're going.
So I'm going to ask you, because you mentioned your family, when you mentioned this decision to your spouse, what was the conversation like? Because going from being a vice president to owning the business, that's a big step.
Yeah. So I think it goes back to how business has really evolved over the last 4 or 5 years since COVID began. And there's been a shift to at-home work, to the ability to work remotely. Trans Solutions was started in Boston, Massachusetts. We still have an office out there, so we're bi-coastal now, with me running from the West Coast, and Giles still has an office that he operates out of Boston. But it just gave me an opportunity to really do what I wanted to do, which was own my own business, but also get to spend more time with family and not spend 2.5 hours back and forth on our busy freeways out here in California and in Orange County, commuting to and from the office, and getting to spend more time kind of with the family, and having a little bit more flexibility. So while it brings its challenges, it also brought a ton of advantages to be able to really spend more time with them and have that flexibility, and definitely build something for the future for our family.
So it's fortunate that Giles has stayed in the business and kind of in the background, is kind of helping you as you continue to evolve as the president. But I'm wondering, what changed, or what have you learned since you went from vice president to president?
Yeah. So, I think first and foremost, running a business is hard, right? It's challenging, especially a small business. So I think, the flipping the mindset from being a producer, somebody that's really focused in execution and in the business, to somebody that has a major focus on the business and what the business is going to invest in, how the business is going to grow, where we're going to take the business over the short term, the 1 to 2 year plan. And then obviously project planning out for 5 years and seeing where we want to be, down the road. We evaluated different opportunities, and I think the biggest thing for us, being a small firm that runs fairly lean, just finding opportunities to bring technology and automation into our business, to do things bigger, better, faster. and to eliminate a lot of the human touch factor of it. A lot of what we do is analytics based on data. So, when you can get some of that programming into the work stream, it allows you to do things a lot faster, to work with a lot bigger data sets. You're not working in, Excel as much as we typically would have at Trans Solutions in years past, to using technology like SQL, Python, and other coding languages to really build out different platforms that we can utilize to do things better and faster, as I said, but also, deliver more for our customers as they have their needs change.
So tell us what it is your firm does.
So Trans Solutions, as it would sound, is a transportation management consulting firm. We have two different aspects of our business. It's focused in sourcing and rate negotiations. So think about if you're going out to get a contract with your freight carrier or your parcel carrier like FedEx or UPS, you can utilize our expertise and experience to get the best in class contract that you'd be looking for from a rate perspective, as well as making sure your service is top notch. And the other side of our business is what we call engineering or optimization, where if you have some strong contracts in place, really finding opportunities to create efficiencies or optimization in your supply chain with different projects, whether it's adding technology like a transportation management system, TMS, or looking at a network study to say, okay, we have 4 or 5 different distribution centers across the country. Are we in the right markets? Should we be in 5 markets? Should we be in 3 markets? Do we only need to really be in 1 market? Can we distribute out of one centralized location in the middle of the country? So we do a lot of those types of network studies and optimization efforts to really understand the inbound and outbound flow of traffic for a business, and build a new supply chain for them that is optimized, cost efficient, and delivers results as expected for their customers.
Kind of clients that you work with, like who gets the most value out of partnering with Trans Solutions?
Yeah, I think if I was to answer that question, I think it would probably be businesses that know that they need some help, but don't have the resources to do it. So they bring us in as kind of like an extension of their team or additional horsepower to really drive home some of those results, or, as I said, bring some of that expertise or outside of the box thinking to bring new opportunities and new initiatives to the table. And those companies that, for lack of a better term, don't have an ego, right? That say, hey, we know we're good at what we do. We know our business. The transportation and logistics market. So we want to bring in an expert like you guys to really help us identify the weak spots or shine a light on the areas that we maybe haven't looked at or just got too comfortable with. You do business with certain vendors for long enough, and you haven't taken a look at your contracts or your rates. There's going to be some opportunity. There's scope creep. There's cost creep. In everything that we do. So it's something that we typically find good value in for customers that have long-term relationships, and we focus and pride ourselves on maintaining those relationships or improving those relationships while also delivering those cost savings.
Has the industry, because you've been in it for a while now, you're not the young whippersnapper anymore. You're in the middle, let's say.
Yeah.
How has the industry changed over the years that you've been in it and kind of watching it and seeing it?
Yeah, so I think it's evolved a lot. I hate to go back to the last 5 years, but I think that's really top of a lot of people's minds because there's been a huge change since we experienced the COVID landscape, so to speak. In the global logistics marketplace, where you weren't going to brick and mortar stores. You were ordering things online. You were going to websites. E-commerce has really boomed, especially inbound from Asia, where you can get things at a moment's notice. There's a giant named Amazon. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but they deliver everything, and they deliver it at a moment's notice. So that's really the biggest change, obviously, that we've seen in the marketplace is, the movement of goods, the ability to get things at your door at a moment's notice or short term versus, bringing things into a large distribution center or shipping things in, via ocean containers and needing to unload those at the port and then bring them to a distribution center and then sort them and transit them across the country. It's become a lot more efficient where, you want something immediately or within a couple of days, you can get it there.
Yeah, Amazon has spoiled a lot of consumers with their IT systems and their logistics systems. And it actually has bled into the B2B space a bit too, hasn't it? People's expectations for rapid delivery, information, communications. What can I get on my own from you? Yeah, so I'm sure the consulting part of your business has really had to kind of keep up and help people become what's considered best in class.
Right.
Because so many of us have seen what I think is a world-class logistics company and Amazon.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, as in the role of the president, even though you have Giles in the background, any feeling of being isolated or alone as you've been scaling Trans Solutions?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky to not really feel that isolation yet. Having a business partner that I can rely on, a mentor that I've been working with for 13 years, a good whiteboard partner to work through things. I will say, I think there's a change that goes on though when you're in that decision maker seat where you can get a ton of advice, you can solicit that, you can figure that out from a number of different parties. But at the end of the day, you got to make that decision and you got to live with the results, and you need to make sure that you're comfortable with it. So I like to think of myself as a decisive person, very solutions oriented. So I think it's something that I haven't struggled with, I would say, but it's definitely been a change to really have that decision maker hat on, as among the other hats that you wear, where you want to make sure that you're making the right decision, not only for the here and now, but for the future of your company and the future of the client relationship. So you have to really put some time and effort into that, and you can't just rely on somebody else to pass the buck, so to speak. You have to be sitting in that chair.
Yeah, I think it was President Harry Truman who had the saying, "The buck stops here."
Yeah.
So it's kind of now in your role, what I've heard you say. Speaking of sayings, maybe advice, is there a piece of business advice that you've been given that you can share with my audience that you have found valuable?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rick. I think if I was to say what I think is the best piece of business advice that I've been given, it's to not get too high or too low as you deal with the day-to-day successes and challenges, and really to just control the controllables, like control what you can control, because we're in an industry that you can't control, right? I mean, you can't control the longshoreman strike. You can't control hurricanes that are going to, destroy supply chains. Thinking back a few years, canals that get blocked by ships, that go sideways that you don't foresee, but it costs billions of dollars to the economy, and you need to figure out ways to get your goods, from point A to point B. And, best laid plans are always there, where it's like, okay, we've built a plan, but, in supply chain and logistics, you always have to have that backup. So I think, making sure that you don't get too high and too low, because, nothing is permanent, right? I mean, I think, you can have some wild successes, but if you kind of rest on your laurels, you're going to miss additional opportunities. And likewise, if you're sulking, in the corner about something that went wrong in a negotiation or in a client deal, you're going to miss, the silver linings and the opportunities to not only learn, but, to get better and to make sure that you're not having those same mistakes or challenges, on the next deal. So that's what I think is probably the best piece of business advice that I have, and, that I could give to other business owners.
Well, thank you for that, because I think that's one of the differences too. When you go from VP to president, there's so many things that you need to be sensitive to, but focusing on the controllables and putting your energy behind things that you can make a difference in is really valuable. So thank you for that. But, also, as you were talking, I was thinking before COVID, I'm not sure what the American population thought about supply chains, other than if I want it, I can get it, because we're in a land of abundance. But we really became aware of how fragile and how many points of failure there are potentially within the supply chain when a lot of them get impacted by something like a global pandemic. I was just watching the news earlier today, and the hurricane that's coming through Florida.
Right.
It's unbelievable, the devastation on the personal side, but then also from a business setting, trying to manage the logistics around a once in 100-year kind of storm. It's unthinkable. Let's talk about artificial intelligence and technology.
Okay.
How do you see that in your industry? What are you doing with it in your company? Just give us a sense for your view of AI.
Yeah. So I think AI from like an operations standpoint has been there. It's been continuing to evolve over the last number of years. When you're talking about automation in a line, right, in a warehouse, you're able to run nearly 24/7 because you have that technology and that artificial intelligence, robotics to really be able to keep your warehouse moving and stock and restock and do all of that good stuff. And then, you look at the ports, where they're unloading containers, with automation. That was a big point of contention if you followed, the longshoremen strike, right? I mean, they wanted to make sure that, their union was protected, that those jobs were protected, that, they weren't going to be replaced by automation. So it's definitely a hot point. It's a buzzword in the industry. As it relates to trans solutions, though, I think AI as it were for the common business conversation around like the Chat GPTs and the Microsoft Copilots. I mean, I'm sure you've seen, and a lot of other business owners have seen, your mailbox gets flooded with a lot of those outreaches. So I think we've been trying to determine where there's a place for that with us to create content, to cultivate content. To really try to reach audiences that we haven't reached before with our outbound sequencing and emailing campaigns, without being that spammer, right? I mean, you've probably gotten spam email where, you're like, okay, this is definitely spam. They don't know anything about what we do, or they don't know anything about me. So you want to maintain that human touch, but you want to try to find some economies of scale there where you can get your message out to a target audience, or a population that's really going to resonate or needs your services, that maybe isn't looking for them at that particular time, but you can kind of strike up the conversation versus the old way of just cold calling and picking up the phone and trying to drive business. So we obviously focus on word of mouth and referral as our best and optimal way of maintaining business and continuing to evolve our client relationships. But I think from the AI standpoint, we're looking at that and seeing how we can leverage some of that artificial intelligence into our campaigns and sales and marketing materials to really be able to reach a broader audience where before we weren't doing a lot of that.
It's interesting that you brought up the short tenured longshoreman strike, because I didn't realize how much automation already existed in that industry. But as a part of the coverage, I did see some video of different ports that are more automated, and seeing the loaders and everything moving around, and like, where are the people? And I can see why it's been a common part of all the labor negotiations, whether it's Hollywood or the longshoremen, and that is job dislocation caused by artificial intelligence across very different industries and fields and professions. So you live in interesting times, Paul. Your industry is one of them that's faced with this, because they really didn't solve the problem in the strike. They pushed it off till next year.
They kept the contract going for 6 months or whatever it was, and they're kicking the can down the road, so to speak.
Right. So who knows? In the first of the year, ladies and gentlemen, after the holiday season, there may be another bout of this risk because they haven't solved that issue. And frankly, I don't know how they're going to, but hopefully they'll find a way. So let's talk about the future. Since we're talking about January already, let's move you to, I think it's one of the great things when the founder finds his or her replacement, that source of new ideas and energy. You obviously bought it not only for what it can do for you today, but what it might represent. So take us on a journey and talk to us about how you see Trans Solution Consulting evolving over your leadership.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I think it's a great question. I think we're very good at what we do. So I don't think we're looking at expansion into new areas, or we're trying to do things that we haven't kind of built our foundation on. But I do think there's opportunities to get better in the core areas, as it relates to efficiency, automation, speed to savings, all those kind of buzzwords that are for our industry about how we deliver results to customers, and making sure that we're turning things a lot faster. Obviously, if you bring in more business, you can turn it a lot faster. You're going to grow organically that way, and if you have the structure in place, you can handle more business without having to hire 10 new heads to handle the analytics and push the buttons. But excuse me. But I think from the longer term, we want to make sure that we're not seen as a transactional business where we're coming in and we're negotiating a contract, and then it's a 2-year term, and then we have to go out and find new clients. We really want to come alongside and align with our customers, and really follow our core values of being a trusted advisor, being a partner, being somebody that's an extension of the team, somebody that can be relied upon, and bring solutions, and bring different ideas and outside of the box thinking, where we're continuing to work on new projects. We're continuing to provide value as it relates to something that may be like freight audit and payment, or contract management, systems management, those types of things, where there's a lot of things beyond just negotiating a contract that we do, that we can deliver results to customers. Obviously, hard dollar savings speaks loudly. So I think that's kind of where you start, is you deliver the dollars, and everybody wants to tighten their budget and have better profitability. But I think for the long term, our focus really is to take those areas that we're really good at, and expand upon them within our current client base, and referrals or close partners of those clients that we have, to really be long-term, 5 to 10 year partners, versus just negotiating a contract, getting paid, and then, starting the hamster wheel again of finding a new client and doing it over and over and over again every 2 years, where you have that revenue churn. You really want to focus on how you can deliver value, so that, there's never a question when, you get brought up on a budget review. What's Trans Solutions, and what are they doing for us, and why are we paying them? So
Right.
That's really where I'd like to get to, where we're that trusted advisor and that partner, and that's what we're known for in the industry.
Well, I'm excited to watch your future progression. I've been impressed with the way you've been running your business, and learning more about the value you provide. I sort of was aware of it because I know some other companies that are in this space, but really understanding how you present yourself has been really interesting for me. If someone would like to connect with you, maybe on LinkedIn, Paul, or want to learn more about Trans Solutions, how do they find you guys online?
Yeah, so you can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. You can find my profile. I'm happy to connect, happy to chat. If there's anything that I said that kind of sparked anything in your brain, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to expand on it, and continue the conversation. You can obviously look us up on the web, www.transsolutions.com, trans-solutions.com. And my email, you can just shoot me an email, paul.brinkman@transsolutions, and we can book a meeting and chat about what's going on in the industry, or what's going on in your world, and happy to spend some time with you.
Well, I've appreciated having you on the show. I know you're a busy person, but spending a little bit of time sharing your story with my audience, I've enjoyed it, and I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rick, for having me on. It was a great pleasure to join you.
Yeah, of course. And thanks to the audience. You're a part of Orange County's longest running business talk show. Paul's episode now joins our catalog of over 1,500 episodes. If you happen to be an Orange County entrepreneur, or you run a nonprofit here in Orange County, and you too would like to share your story with our audience, it's really easy. If we're not already connected on LinkedIn, reach out to me. I'm Rick, R-I-C, Franzi, ANZI. And let me know that you have an interest in being a guest. If we're already connected, send me a message or an email. And between Haley, our producer, and myself, we'll be happy to get you ready for a future episode. And until the next time we all have a chance to be together, I hope all of your business decisions will move your company in a positive direction.